Hi everyone, this is the fourth and final video for our holiday series. Hope that you have enjoyed and learned and shared with others. This last message in advance of Shemini, Atzeret, and Simchat Torah has to do with the people of the book. Has to do with the completion of the book of books, of the Chumash. After all, we see the whiteness of the holidays, of the Yom Noraim, and the Aron Kodesh, the Parochas, and the Bima. We realize that the holiest time of year finishes with the completion of Vizos HaBracha, Sefer Dvarim, and the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, with the great siyum that is Simchas Torah. And this year, the day before Simchas Torah, we read the book of Koheles. How appropriate. And we'll connect the two ideas in the two books, Chumash and Koheles. Both of them have much to do with who we are as Jews, as people of the Torah. The book of Koheles was read, recited, performed, and taught by Shlomo HaMelech, by the son of David HaMelech, King Solomon, in the city of Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. We're told that he went ahead and taught the book of Koheles on the holiday of Sukkot. The holiday of Sukkot was not just a time of gathering for the Jewish people, as it's one of the three festivals. The time of Sukkot is not just for gathering like it was during Hakel, when the king gathered after the 7-year Shemitah cycle, agricultural cycle. It was also a place of gathering for all of the leaders of the world. And the Netziv, Rav Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, the great rabbinic luminary and Rosh Yeshiva from Volozhin, said all of the scholars of all of the nations of the world came to Yerushalayim. They came to Yerushalayim to consult with Shlomo HaMelech, to ask his opinion on all sorts of issues, known as the wisest of all the wise men, the person saturated with Torah, with the wisdom they couldn't get anywhere else in the world. And they came on Sukkot. And they went ahead, they saw the goings-on in the Beis HaMikdash. And they also knew that rain and the amount of rainfall for their communities all around the world would be determined on this holiday of Sukkot. And so they sought the word of Shlomo HaMelech, and they heard Koheles for the first time during his reign when he addressed them. And that is the reason why on Sukkot you and I read Koheles. But it's important for us to realize that Sukkot is this holiday in which we really connect with the rest of the world. As we say in Aleinu, and we go ahead and communicate and relay the words of the Navi, Kol Yoshvei Sevel, as we say, we hope for a time when all will recognize the wisdom, like it once was, like with Shlomo HaMelech, that they will yet come again to us, and we will be worthy of that moniker, the name, the people of the book. We look at Koheles, and we should realize Koheles does not have Hashem's name with a Yud, and then a Hey, and then another Yud, and another Hey. It doesn't have the four-letter name of the Almighty. It has the word Elokim. And the commentaries tell us the word Elokim is more recognizable. The concept of God, as understood by the nations of the world, is reflected in the word Elokim, not in Yud Kei Vav Kei, the four-letter name of the Almighty. And indeed, if a person looks at Koheles, we see it is not just a work of wisdom, but a work of wisdom for the whole world. Only at the very end of Koheles are the Jewish people directly related to. Only when it says, Sof Davar HaKol Nishma, at the very end. Sof Tavar Kol Nishma Vesel Kim Yirav Es Mitzvah Sav Shemor Mitzvah Sav Shemor. The mitzvahs, the system of mitzvahs is us, but the rest of the book is about a wisdom that's universalistic. It's about a wisdom for all of humanity. And we look at what King Solomon is saying with the divine spirit in the words of Koheles, and it's applicable to all mankind. And the Netziv explains, Kizeh kol ha'adam, that what man is at our core is really similar to each other and to one another. And the Gemara explains, and Chazal tell us, that indeed, sure, there is a wisdom that we have as a community, but there's also a wisdom that's common to everyone. Sure, the mitzvos are for the Jewish people, but there's a wisdom therein that's relevant to everyone. And so on Sukkot, we think about our past, we think about our history, we think about Shlomo HaMelech, and that's the moment in time when you have an image of what a person can relate to, when you have an image, a vision of what you would like to accomplish. That vision allows people to be successful. And so we think of Shlomo HaMelech, we think of the wisdom that went forth from his mouth on Sukkot, with Koheles as the prime example, with all of the great scholars and intellects of that time and era. There's a rabbi who lived in Hungary by the name of Rabbi Hillel Lichtenstein. He lived there in the 1800s, the leading community rabbi in Hungary, and he asks a question. He says, okay, we're the people of the book. And on Simchat Torah, we honor an individual with Chassan Torah, the last aliyah in the Chumash. And we also give an honor of Chassan Breishis, the first aliyah in the Chumash when we begin it anew. So he says that he understands that the practice was, and continues to be, that the Chassan Torah really should be somebody who is a scholar. He's a Talmud Chacham. But Chassan Breishis, as was the practice back then, perhaps they were a benefactor, they weren't a scholar. Chassan Breishis can be given to anybody regardless of their acumen. And he says, why is that the case? He says, he says, somebody who doesn't learn, doesn't understand, how can he have the happiness that is Simchat Torah? He didn't have an understanding of what was completed. He says, and when he begins Breishis, he shouldn't necessarily be able to relate to that either. What's the difference as to why we have this minhag about Chassan Torah being different than Chassan Breishis? The last aliyah and who we honor, the first aliyah and who we honor then. He says, "V'inema sha'Torah tzivah lanu Moshe hi moreshes the kol kehilas Yaakov." He says, look, if we're not going to focus on the scholarship, and we're going to give this, let's say, for our purposes, the benefactor who doesn't study the first aliyah in the Torah, or somebody who's honored, somebody of stature in the community, regardless of their knowledge base. He says we can point to the fact that Torah tzivah lanu Moshe. Moshe commanded the Torah to the entire Kehilas Yaakov, anybody who's biologically, theologically related to Yaakov, our ancestor. Mehai taima kornoso l'chasin breishis. Imkein gam l'chasin Torah nikroso. If that's the case, where Torah is relevant to all the Jews, and we leave aside that notion of the happiness in the Simchat Torah and that aliyah of Chassan Torah only being for a scholar, if we leave that aside because we adopt and we take on that viewpoint that Torah is equally relevant to all Jews regardless of their actual skill set and their actual studies, then why should we differentiate? Maybe Chassan Torah should be like Chassan Breishis. And if we stress the scholarship, then why isn't Chassan Breishis like Chassan Torah? So that's the question. So he explains that this minhag is a very important minhag and a very old minhag, and we should understand the rationale behind it. He says, when it comes to the happiness that is Chasam Torah and finishing the 5 books and thereby Simchas Torah, it's not about the potential of what can be accomplished. He says it's about that which was studied and known and learned, and therefore there's only certain people who've actually taken the time to do that who we go ahead and honor. But he says, Breishis and starting anew, and Chas and Breishis in that first Aliyah is altogether different. He explains the potential of learning, the potential of taking part is open to everyone. And there's a new opportunity this year. Are we going to go ahead and take the opportunities of taking the Chumash and all of the Parshios, and everybody starts off the same? We're all at the beginning and we're all on the same level. Is this year going to be the year that we connect to the Chumash and to the Parshios of the week? And in that way, any Jew who we want, person of stature who's knowledgeable, a person who's not knowledgeable, anybody who we think we should honor, because it's all about what can be accomplished this year. And he explains that is why the practice was in his community in Hungary to differentiate between Chasam Torah and Chasam Breishis. And he explains the Haschalos HaTorah, Ubreishis Limudo Sheyachzik Talmid Chacham, a person can achieve the same level of learning that the scholar goes ahead and accomplishes. The scholar has a track record, and every year he connects to the Chumash. But everybody has that potential to connect to the Chumash in their own way, regardless of where they have been up until now. And to go ahead and to learn and have the same apportionment that goes to the students of Torah can now be had by any Jew. And that's what Breishis ought to signify. That's the opportunity that presents itself on Simchat Torah. We celebrate as a community, and we also celebrate the potential of what we can accomplish. And so this year, when we celebrate being the people of the book, who celebrate the completion of the Chumash, and we realize that we represent in this world this capacity for wisdom, that we hope to achieve yet again, like Shlomo Melech achieved for the Jewish people on Sukkot so many years ago. That we realize that this Breishis, this upcoming reading of Breishis, represents for us this great opportunity. Perhaps we have more time on our hands. Perhaps we're home more often. Perhaps we're not accomplishing what we needed to accomplish and we're given more time, fewer deadlines, fewer tasks. And perhaps we have time to make our own schedules in ways that we didn't make before, and maybe that's what the virus represents for us. This coming Breishis, we can commit ourselves to connecting to the words of the Torah and making sure that we have the same relationship as the scholars might have in this coming year, 5781. We take Breishis and we go ahead and we do Shmos as well, and Vayikra, and Bamidbar, and Dvarim. And the celebration inspires us to make sure that we make a kinyan, that we go ahead and acquire for ourselves this knowledge and wisdom that's being pursued around the world, as evidenced by what took place on Sukkot in Yerushalayim so many thousands of years ago under that golden era that was Shlomo HaMelech. Thank you very much for participating and watching. Have a wonderful Yontif. We hope to see you in person or virtually or on the phone as soon as possible. Warm regards and best wishes on Simchat Torah, Shemini Atzeret, and Simchat Torah. Thank you.